Hello everybody, it's Starrapter here and welcome to the channel. Today I'm breaking down the Star Wars Resistance first look trailer frame by frame. We're going to go through and try to figure out what we can from this 1 minute, very short trailer. With me today I have Mike from formerly Force Within TV. He is rebranding his channel to Star Wars Speculation. How are you doing today, Mike?
Fantastic. Really happy to go through these images with you, Chris. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, heck yeah, heck yeah. So let's just jump right in. So this first image is what looks like it is Kazuda Xiono's ship, I believe. And if we're looking very closely, it looks like there's some very interesting images on here. I think I'm seeing like a Naboo starfighter and possibly like a YT 1300 AK, a Millennium Falcon type ship. So that looks kind of cool, right? Am I the only person who's seeing this right now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I think it's actually a different ship than Kazuda's. I think his is yellow and a darker green, but definitely that does look like a Naboo starfighter as well as a YT 1300. People are saying, the YT 1300, of course, is the Millennium Falcon model. So people are saying that perhaps there's a connection to Han Solo. He was part of a racing team in Bloodline, you'll remember. So that's sort of the speculation there, but it is just a really cool shot.
Oh yeah. First off, those two great points there is the bloodline connection. I didn't even think of that until you mentioned that, because that was something that was very heavily in the lore right now. In between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, we have Han Solo, who has kind of gone back to his roots a little bit, where he used to race and stuff, and he's gone back into that. So yeah, maybe there is a connection. Maybe we could possibly see a Han Solo at some point in the series. I don't know. I think he might be out on his own, doing his own thing at this point. But yeah, I mean, that is very interesting there for sure. I do like the angle, though. Now, this angle in the actual trailer, when there's motion, obviously, it does remind me of like that Force Awakens kind of angle that J.J. Abrams used on the Battle of Starkiller Base that had that like right next to the ship. I really like that kind of. And this is all about dogfighting. This whole series about spies and dogfighting. So right now, it
Yeah,
looks like they got it going. Good.
that's a great point, Chris. I hadn't made that connection to the sort of JJ-esque shot. That's really cool.
Yep. So moving on to this next shot. Now this is like the iconic heroes behind the back looking at the two moons for their destiny that's going to unfold. I think it's pretty awesome how BB-8 just seems to be such a central character in this show.
Yeah, I guess similar to Star Wars Rebels, where we had, I think it was like right away, episode 2, I want to say, we had R2D2 and C3PO. I don't think BB-8 is going to be around very long, but I think maybe Poe leaves them with Kaz for a while. It's really hard to tell. And yeah, I posted up on my Force Within TV Facebook page, soon to be Star Wars Speculation Facebook page, a comparison between this and Luke looking at the two suns on Tatooine, and then Ezra on Lothal, I believe it was, with the two moons. So it's really cool to see that connectivity between the original trilogy and the animation shows, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And just jumping off that point where you mentioned about BB-8, you don't think he's going to be with Kazuda very long, and I definitely agree with you. I think this entire 1 minute trailer is just comprised of the very first hour-long episode, which I believe is called The Recruit. So, because I've read the Poe Dameron comics, I know you've read a few issues there, and BB-8 is so important to Poe that it's hard to believe that he would leave him with anybody. It's like he only leaves him with somebody if he absolutely needs to. So I don't think it's going to be for very long.
Yeah, or maybe Poe is still at Colossus Station here, and this is just BB-8 trying to help out Kaz. Maybe Kaz is having doubts after the race or something like that. This
Yeah.
could very well be the ending of the episode, right? Where Kaz is kind of thinking like, oh man, this is not going to be as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on. This is, I think, Steele Saunders mentioned it on Twitter that this is the Star Fox shot, and I totally agree with you because that was a really good game that I played growing up. And again, the dogfighting in this looks great. We're actually gonna have racing in the skies. We've got plenty of that in Star Wars with the prequels with pod racing. So it's going to be interesting to see ships just flying through this space, going through these rings to race. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it is really cool, and it looks like. Does that kind of look like a Mandalorian ship to you? I forget the exact model name, but the it kind of looks like it might be, maybe not, but there's definitely some shots later that shows a
Oh yeah,
Mandalorian
this
starfighter. So
this definitely looks like it could be, and I'm really not remembering the name of the ship either, unfortunately. Um,
yeah, the
I
Fang fighter, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
Is that
something
what it
like
is?
that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's really cool how the coloration is kind of black and or gray and white rather. So that kind of resembles something from either the First Order or the Empire. So we know at this point that the First Order hasn't really been discovered yet by the entirety of the galaxy, and that's why Kazuto is on Colossus to discover more about what's going on with the First Order. They're not going to use TIE fighters, obviously, at this point, so they're going to use this undescript kind of vehicles, as was mentioned in Bloodline. So, do you think it could be some trace of that, Mike?
Yeah, that's a really interesting theory. I mean, we could, off the back of that, we could see a first order sort of supported racing team. That would be really interesting. Some people are speculating that who's the character Tora, I believe it is, the one that sort of helps Kaz get started. It seems really encouraging to him. She might actually be a first order sympathizer. It would be an interesting twist if she was, after being so supportive of him in the opening episode. So
Oh, that would be very interesting if the actual show did a twist like that for sure. Yeah, definitely. And we're moving on to this nice shot of BVA. I will say I like the animation quite a bit for this, especially because it combines like 3D with 2D at the same time. So it looks really interesting, really unique. And I think BB-8 out of all the characters looks like the best in this whole kind of format of the show. What do you think, Mike?
yeah, I think he looks really good. Actually, now that you pointed out, he's like some of the characters, specifically Niku, which is a Nick two. I believe I'm saying that right. Anyway, like he doesn't really look like the live action characters quite as much. You really need to sort of point it out or do the research. But yeah, BB-8 looks solid here for sure. It's just interesting how some of the characters I think will look a little better than others. Just the depth and the different type of art works better, I guess, on some of them.
Yeah, and I mean, just a quick aside here. I like how we have all these different mediums for the TV series. We have this one's going to be more of your straightforward traditional 2D, although it is mixed with 3D. Then we have Clone Wars, which is CG, and then we're going to have a live action show. So we have a lot of variety for a lot of different age ranges, a lot of people with different tastes. So I think that's really good coming from Lucasfilm with all this kind of content.
Yeah, I agree totally. It's great that Lucasfilm is trying new things.
Definitely, it's better to take a risk. I think at least so. All right, moving on. We have a close-up shot of Kazuda Ziono. So I like this helmet a lot, and as we'll see later on in this video, there's lots of different helmet types, and it looks like he's pretty much in danger, maybe, with his facial expression. Like he's really stressed out. Hopefully he's okay.
Yeah, no, definitely. The thing that stands out here for me, Chris, is that this really looks like a rebel helmet, don't you think? Like the
Yeah.
checkers, especially in the top right hand
Oh,
corner.
yeah, I
It
noticed the
it
checker. Yeah.
reminds me of the original trilogy kind of helmets. So yeah, it's definitely cool to see that sort of callback or connection. And yeah, Kazuda's definitely looking like he's concentrating. It's not a walk in the park for him to fly around and race this starfighter for sure.
Oh, yeah. All right, the next image here, we have a nice kind of crowd shot of the race itself. So you see here we have the population of the Colossus. I think you could actually see a hammerhead there on the left. That's one thing that this show is not short of is the characters, the legacy species from Star Wars. You'll see a couple Rhodians. Snaggletooth is in there. Ithorian, that's the name that I was trying to find. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You see the spacesuit up there. You see the big screens, kind of like with the pod racing. So it's kind of nice to get like that vantage point of what the crowd is experiencing when these ships are just flying at these high velocity speeds.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting. I'm assuming that this is like pod racing. This is going to be something that's broadcast throughout the galaxy via the HoloNet, and yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out and how important it is in the galaxy, and because this is so far out, right? I believe is it in the Outer Rim or
It's in
the
the
Unknown
outer rim,
region?
yes. They don't tell us
Outer
what
Rim.
planet it's
Okay.
on, but it's in the outer rim.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep forgetting.
Yep. Okay. There we have our star character here, Mr. Poe Dameron. So it was really awesome hearing Poe, hearing Oscar Isaac actually speak. And I really do like, again, I think they did a great job with the artwork for Poe here.
Yeah, I think there was somebody today or maybe yesterday on Twitter saying that they really didn't nail Poe Dameron, but I think this is great. Like, it's animation that's definitely Poe Dameron.
Yeah, and if you take a close look at what he's wearing, the background, I mean, it look he's in his X-wing suit. Maybe we'll see him in Black One, his fighter that we see him in Force Awakens and throughout the Poe Dameron comic book series. He also looks like he could be on a Resistance freighter of some sort, judging by the kind of stark white background.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe he's giving some or he's talking to Kazuda via Hollow or something like that. But it's hard to tell. Yeah, where exactly they are.
Yep. And here in this next shot, we have the full view of the Colossus. So this is the station that Poe Dameron tasks Kazuda Xiono to go and infiltrate into this racing kind of I don't know if it's a racing gang or a racing crew, rather. They kind of just spy out and see if there's any first order people doing some bad things. So, yeah, as far as a new location in Star Wars, I think this is a really interesting, unique idea because it's a water world from what it looks like. There is no landmass, and it's just this station just out like a oil rig, but a giant city kind of thing. So I like how the colors are just, especially in some of the other shots, it's just such a vibrant kind of location.
Yeah, the colors definitely stand out in the trailer. All together, they're almost they definitely push the limits of what is Star Wars and in the color palette in general. But yeah, Colossus Station is very interesting. I mean, it's hard to really grasp the scale of the station. Obviously, it's huge. How huge it is kind of remains to be seen. But once we see that first episode or maybe an additional trailer, I think we'll get a better idea. But yeah, it's and that's going to be really interesting seeing Kaz explore the station. Maybe it's run by the First Order. We know that the First Order has tons of money. Do they have, are they bribing some of the starfighter racing teams to lose or win so that they can make more money? There's just so many things that could be happening on the station with regards to the First Order. I'm definitely excited to check it out.
Yeah, because my whole excitement from this series stems from this it's like a kind of like a Cold War. Well, it essentially is because the Resistance knows the First Order's out there and they're building up their arms and they don't want to start a full front war. They're just trying to investigate. So we're gonna have this game of like cat and mouse, which is exactly what you get from the Poe Dameron comic series, where you have Poe. He's not trying to ignite this war. They're not trying to kill any of the stormtroopers or anything because that will make them get into war. So they have to do things very, very carefully. So they need a lot of spies, a lot of reconnaissance people to keep tabs on them. All
Yeah,
right.
that's what I was going to say with regards to the Poe Dameron comic, which I'm just starting to read through. Yeah, it definitely you get that comes across, right, that they can't openly attack
Mm-hmm.
the First Order.
Yep. So here we have our shot of the crew. So I'm not really sure about who any of these characters are. I know a few names. I don't know what faces to put the names to. So I don't know if you could help me with that, Mike.
Yeah, no, for sure. Niku is the guy up front, I believe, here, and then to the right, the person is Tam, the one with
Okay.
the hands on the head.
Okay.
As far as the others go, I think the names are out, but I'm not. I don't have them right in front of me here, and I don't have them memorized. So people are speculating that the lady on the left has a connection to the Iron Squadron. Um, there was a similar
Oh,
alien
yeah.
in Iron Squadron. Some people have been speculating that she looks evil, so she must be a First Order sympathizer. Yeah, so
Yeah, I'm just
that's about as much as I
excited.
know.
Yeah, I'm just excited that they included her as like another kind of species of alien that we never usually see. Now, she's the same kind of species I think that was in. See, I'm remembering the characters from the Clone Wars, Jedi Master Tipley and something. I don't know if you remember them from the season 6,
Yeah,
the Order
you got a better
66
memory
arc.
than me. You got a
Yeah.
better memory than me. I don't know, man.
Well, and I think it's also the same alien species that Boba Fett like talks to in Jabba's palace when she's on there for like a fraction of a second. I really don't
Okay.
know the species name, but yeah, I've seen them before, so that's cool. They're bringing back like more of an obscure kind of species, and we see what looks like a Rhodey in there, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah, he's definitely a larger Rhodian than we usually see. So that's funny. But one of the things I want to point out there is it looks like some people I've heard talking about Niku, the guy who's in the front of this picture,
Okay.
and how he might have actually been originally the pilot of the ship Kazuda's flying. His sort of get up there, his jumpsuit kind of looks
Yeah.
like it matches maybe a little bit, but I don't know really. Kind of that patch maybe on the his shoulder kind of sort of has the same colors, but
Oh
yeah, it's
yeah.
hard to tell.
Now, what kind of alien species did you say he's a Nycto?
Nikto, yeah.
Oh, okay. See, I'm used to have them having a coloration of more of like a tannish kind of brownish color. So
Yeah,
definitely interesting.
apparently there's green Nikto and there's red Nikto, and yeah, it gets complicated. It's Star Wars.
Again, I'm just excited that like they're focusing so much on the alien species because that's one of my favorite things with Star Wars. So moving on, we have what looks like a very tough brute character. Don't know what kind of species he is, but we know that you know, he's gonna get in trouble. Our main character is gonna be in a little bit of trouble here.
Yeah, Kazuda definitely. It's interesting. We see the same character throwing somebody off Colossus Station, I think, into the water. So
Mm-hmm.
he's definitely some sort of enforcer. Seems like he might be working for Poe Dameron, right? Because Poe, in the trailer, Poe's just like, forget about it, don't worry about it, kind of deal. When Kaz is asking what's going on, right? It's kind of a good comedic
Yeah.
section of the trailer, but yeah, I'm not really sure.
Okay, so this next one, we have that same conversation you just alluded to. We have Poe, we have Kazuda, they're walking, and he's just like, all right, what about that guy? Yeah, don't worry about it. What I like is it kind of just builds up the world, our environment, what we're going to see on the Colossus. And we do see here Poe Dameron, as I mentioned earlier when we first seen him, he is wearing a different outfit. Now, this is more of one he wore. That's his jacket that actually Finn has, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So maybe before, remember there is an image, and I might be skipping ahead there, but there is an image where Kaz is wearing not a resistance, but a New Republic jacket. And that might be when Poe is in his pilot suit, right?
Ah.
So that could be it. And then once they get to Colossus, we see Poe in his actual jacket, and he's a little more undercover-ish, I suppose. And yeah, that would make sense to me.
Yeah, and some things you could look at. I don't know. There's some people here that can actually translate Arabesh very quickly, so I'm sure somebody probably already looked at that right there behind Poe on the right. It looks like a blaster and some other things. And there is another what looks like a transporter ship up at the top of the image there. What I like about this is the show again. It's really already seeming like it's going to expand this time period in between the Force Awakens and Return of the Jedi. Like I made this joke to the Star Wars Underworld. They put out a tweet, and I replied like, in a minute trailer, this show introduced more ships than the last two sequel movies did. You know, like there are so many new
Yeah.
vehicles and ships. And I'm like, oh, this is great.
No, that's a great point for sure. I mean, there's and they're original, right? No X wings,
Yes.
no Y wings, or not that I don't like X wings, but
Yep. All right. And here, speaking of X-wings, we have kind of a ship that might seem like it's possibly the successor in the later years to the X-wing. Maybe is this maybe a New Republic standard fighter that they've decommissioned a few years ago or something. We got BB-8. We got the character that you mentioned, and Jaeger's there as well. So, what can you glean from this image, Mike?
Yeah, I know it's tough really to tell. Obviously, they're introducing Kazuda to the ship itself. It does remind me a lot of like a Z-95 or an X-wing. Um, obviously there's just the one set of wings, so it's not really an X-wing, but it looks cool. It's interesting to think like what is actually happening here in the story. Is Niku, is he, and saying, "Hey, Kaz, you want to be an ace pilot? You should race, this ship." Because as far as we know, Jaeger just runs he's just a mechanic, and he just runs like a mechanic shop,
Mm-hmm.
right, with his crew. So I'm assuming it's Niku saying, "Hey, man, I used to race this, but I can't anymore. Why don't you?" Or something to that effect. But who
Yeah.
really knows?
Yeah, and just looking at this image just right now, I'm like, wow, this looks really good as far as the quality, the shadows of the characters, the color palette. I really just dig this animation the more I look at it.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking, Chris. Notice the red, yellow, white there on the ship.
Yeah.
That looks kind of over to the right by the hour looking at it right wing.
Mm-hmm.
That looked a lot like Niku's the badge that was on
Oh
Niku's
yeah,
arm, right? So
making
perhaps it
connections.
was the racer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one, Mike. So going to the next one, we got a close up of Jaeger, who is this guy that it seems like in the trailer with the voiceover, he knows what Kazuto is really there for, but he's saying like, just don't get us in trouble, right? I think that's what I'm kind of getting from this whole conversation.
He said, what was it? He said, you can go about, you can be part of my mechanic crew. That's all good, kind of deal. But I don't want any part of your spy mission. Right? He's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be helping
Mm-hmm.
you out. And
Yeah.
I was speculating in a video I did yesterday about the characters that that's going to change, and that he will eventually, kind of like Luke Skywalker, coming back and saving the Resistance in the Last Jedi. Jaeger is eventually going to, within the first season, is going to join Kazuto and become part of his mission.
Yes, and what I find interesting about this character is that it was revealed that he does have a history with Poe. Him and them are friends from a while ago. So, was he in the New Republic Navy? What is their background? We don't know anything about it from Poe Dameron comics because obviously this is a brand new character made just for Star Wars Resistance.
Yeah, I speculated on the idea that maybe he was perhaps like friends with Poe's parents. It's really hard to tell exactly how old he is. He could actually be, with his beard there, he could actually be as young as Poe, or he could be quite a bit older. Really, I mean, it's hard to tell with the animation how old this guy is, right? So he could have been around, during the Galactic Civil War, even if he is a
Oh,
bit
that'd be
older.
really
So
interesting. Yeah.
that would be really, yeah, it'd be really interesting. It would be really cool to see flashbacks when, if he's like telling them stories, right, back to the
Oh,
Galactic Civil War. I think that would be really cool to see in this style animation. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to Yeager. I think he's like instantly my favorite character. He's kind of reminds me of Kanan Jarrus, right? He's
yes.
going to be probably most likely the mentor. He's kind of reluctant right away. Doesn't really want to help Kaz with his mission. And yeah, personally, I'm hoping he does come around and he does become a big part of that mission.
Yeah, so many fascinating little tidbits you brought up there. That'd be just amazing if they brought back flashbacks. So yeah, that's something I don't suspect they do, but it would definitely not be out of the question for sure. And moving on, we have a nice little action shot here of Kazuto, who is evading a laser fire from some pursuing ships. And what I liked about this shot is what we can expect as far as the spy antics, as far as the action on foot. He is jumping off of this ledge and immediately going into a somersault. So this guy, he's not force sensitive. At least we really don't know that. But I mean, at least he has some action prowess. he's able to just get out of there safely. I think that's cool. He's going to be, your typical spy action hero.
Yeah, I think he's actually getting shot at by stormtroopers because they don't hit him. So, so yeah, but I don't know how much action, power wise he has, but if he's just going, but they are first order stormtroopers, which are a bit better. But yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting. One of the things that came up in the press release, which was very different and gave a lot more detail than the StarWars.com article, is that Kazuto will need to what is it? He needs to make sure that the mechanics in the shop, other than Jaeger, don't know about his mission. So he's keeping that totally secret from them. So that lends a whole different dynamic. And you can see he was obviously snooping around, at night when everybody's kind of gone to bed. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic, I think, that.
Oh yeah, because it's gonna add this whole nother layer to the character. Like he's gonna get to know these characters really well, and there might be like a life or death situation where out of nowhere they're gonna realize that he was a spy, and they're gonna and he's gonna basically turn on them, or they're gonna turn on him for not, withholding this information from him. So I think that's gonna be a really nice kind of boiling point throughout this. Maybe it's just in the episode or throughout the series. It's gonna kind of build up for sure. All right, moving on. We have the character for the first time we see of Bucket. This is the droid here, and it's funny because he's actually wearing the helmet of Kazuto here, and he's knocking him in the face. One of the comedic moments for sure out of this.
Yeah, it's funny. When I first looked at this, I thought the droid, it wasn't a helmet; it was just part of the droid. And then you can see that he's probably going to be even more curmudgeon-y than Chopper.
Ooh.
He doesn't have any actual body. He's just all exposed. So it was interesting that they went that way. And again, the animation looks really good on the droid. You can see all the shadows and sort of the internal mechanisms of the droid there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, because you can't really have a story about mechanics without having some kind of droid because they're so adept at being able to go in and fix these things. I want to know, like, how big of a character this is going to be. Is this character going to be as central as Chopper was to our Ghost crew? Is he going to be even able to speak, or is he going to speak in beeps and boops like R2 and Chopper? So there's a lot to learn about this droid here. We don't know anything at all at this point.
Yeah, I'd say he's an astromech droid like R2 and Chopper. He's got that sort of round cylinder shape to him. But yeah, it's hard to tell with this shot. And I don't think he really featured in any of the other shots in the trailer, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah. And moving on, I love this shot. Like, I can make this shot my screensaver, what have you. Both of these ships, we got Kazuto, and who is the female that might be driving, or piloting rather, that ship, Mike?
I believe it's Tora.
Okay.
I think I'm saying that right. Yeah. So Tora, and that ship. Now I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's a ship that they plucked from Legends. It's an R-41 or so. I'm sorry, I just can't remember what exactly it is. But yeah, it was a Legends ship, and they brought it back. Somebody else on Twitter mentioned. Actually, it was in my my YouTube comments. They mentioned that it looks a lot like an A-wing, like the front of it, and that maybe they had taken an A-wing and then modeled it into this ship. But yeah, apparently it's a ship that has come from Legends. So yeah, that's a cool fact.
Yeah, actually, for whatever reason, I got more of a Y-wing vibe when I seen this ship. I was like, oh, it's got kind of like that longer cockpit going down to the forward. And now that you mentioned A-wing, I'm like, oh, that totally looks like an A-wing, just like strapped with wings on the side.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like an extended A-wing or a larger A-wing for sure, which are interceptors and very fast. So yeah, it's cool. It definitely, the big thing about the ships I find is the colors. A lot of people are complaining, this doesn't look like Star Wars, but I mean, this is like NASCAR, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are racing ships. It's totally different. These aren't military Navy ships like we're used to seeing with the First Order or the Resistance, right?
Yeah.
These are supposed to be flashy. right?
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
racing
Yeah,
ships.
and now something I find interesting is, like you said, yeah, the racing ships, but they also seem like they have weapons on them as well. Now, are they going to have to fly through certain hoops and maybe fire at some targets to score points as they're flying? That could seem like a possibility.
Well, if the First Order is behind this, then yeah, I bet you they do, because that would be an easy way for the First Order to bribe certain ships to take others out, or it definitely creates some interesting dynamics where Kaz maybe not just needs to learn how to fly, but also avoid people shooting him, and that really comes into that whole Cold War, right? Like that's a good point. We're not going to see open conflict necessarily, maybe at night like we did already in a previous image, but during these races we might actually see quite a bit of conflict, or sort of that conflict between the First Order and the Resistance kind of playing out. That would be interesting.
Oh yeah, because for instance, they could easily have somebody like trying to shoot a target and somebody get in the way, and then just like blaming it. Oh yeah, he just got in his way. Like that's one
Yeah,
easy mistake
exactly.
that they can easily hide their true intentions for.
Yep,
So
yep.
moving on, we have a close up of. Help me with the name.
This is Torah again. I
Okay.
believe. I really hope I'm not screwing that up. Yeah,
We're all
I think it's
speculating here.
Torah.
We don't actually know
Yeah.
this for sure, I don't believe, right?
I wrote down a few of the names, but this, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Torah. She has an Arabesh 5 on her right shoulder pad there, which is just like Sabine did in like season 2, and even in the 4th season, she had that painted on there. So yeah, that's an interesting connection there. Some people have speculated that the little bit of blue paint on her face means she may not actually be human. I don't. I think that's just some sort of tattoo. But she's. I've heard other people speculating that yeah, she's being really nice to Kazuto because she's actually a spy with the First Order, and she's going to turn on him at some point. So there's lots of interesting speculation. She could also be just his love interest, and at some point they're going to come together and do something interesting against the First Order. There's definitely lots of potential with this character. What are you thinking,
Yeah,
Chris?
that was really fascinating insight, Mike. And yeah, I totally get the connection from Sabina. I instantly looked at the shoulders and realized, hey, she has the same markings as Sabine. Now, granted, maybe she's just also a number 5 or whatever, like you said that was going to be. But yeah, I definitely got more of a teacher, a friend of Kazuda in the trailer. They're racing against each other. So, I mean, yeah, anything can happen, and I would like to see this story be more in depth with such things like you mentioned, rather than just a straightforward show for kids. Let's have a little bit of intrigue. It is a spy show after all, so obviously we got to have some maybe double agents and stuff like that. It can't be a good spy story without that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, young people need to understand that just because somebody is friendly up front doesn't mean that they have your best intentions in mind. So I think that fits into the age group we're targeting here.
For sure. Now, this is one of the most fascinating images of the trailer, and you already kind of mentioned that these do look like they could be Mandalorian Fang fighters, and they are firing green laser bolts. And we know at this point they're going under the cover of night, so they're up to no good, obviously. Otherwise, they wouldn't be firing whatever what looks like to be Kazuda, and it could be the droid. I'm not sure. What do you have to say about this, Mike?
Yeah, it's really tough to. I'm kind of leaning in here trying to get a better look at it because the image you sent me here is actually a really good one. It's probably the best look I've had. I'm not sure if that is a Fang fighter. It kind of reminds me of some of the ships that we've already seen in the background a little bit. I'm not sure. It's really hard to tell, Chris, but maybe it's just some sort of Colossus security,
Could
um,
be.
and that and that it's and maybe they're owned by the First Order,
It could
and
be, maybe.
that's why they're attacking Kazuto. That's just my random speculation. I like the idea though that they could be Fang fighters as well, and maybe the Mandalorians are in cahoots with the First Order as well. There's lots of possibilities. I just love how we should be getting so many connections of Mandalorians and all these different aliens in one place on this station. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, it's created by Dave Filoni. You know he's going to put in some kind of connections between Rebels, between Clone Wars. It's just how he operates when he makes his series and why we all love them so much. So going on, this is another awesome shot I really like. And we mentioned it before. We have all the racers. They have all their own unique kind of color scheme. I love helmets in general in Star Wars, and each one of these helmets looks awesome. We got one customized for Rodian. We have one that looks like one of my characters from the Star Wars The Old Republic game has at one point. It looks like we have the female character we were talking about earlier, and yeah, just so much diversity is probably the best way to put it. And as far as this crew of people running in to get into their ships, it looks like.
Yeah, and again, this is where a lot of people complain about, oh, this doesn't look like Star Wars. They don't look like Resistance starfighters. Well, they're not Resistance starfighters. They're racers. They should be pretty prestigious racers and well known throughout the galaxy. So it makes sense that they have these flashy outfits. Not to mention this is sort of a peacetime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So things have evolved, and yeah, it's really cool to see the Rodian there. If you think back to that very first image we looked at, Chris, that Rodian looks like he matches up with that starfighter. It did the green and the yellow that was on that. Remember the new starfighter, and yeah, and I really like the. I believe it's a female in the lead here with the red. Like that looks really striking, but it does when you first look at it. You're like, wow, this is Star Wars, and especially the bright colors in the animation. It takes some getting used to, and I respect that. But the knee jerk reaction to the animation in the show itself, unfortunately, there's a lot of people are just like, oh no, this is horrible, and after a minute trailer, right? So
yeah, I mean, come on, like we all can enjoy this. It might be for kids, but hey, George Lucas said he made this for 12-year-olds, so it's been there the whole time.
I've said several times that yes, it's for kids, it's inspirational, but it can be inspirational to anyone at any age, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what George Lucas was his whole mission was to help young people, and as they're growing up, making the right choices. And the fact is, once you grow up, you still need to make the right choices, and Star Wars is one of those things that continues to remind us to make those good choices in our lives.
Yep, and moving on. This is one of the best images from this trailer. We have what appears to be Captain Phasma. Now, I think she might be shooting like a stun bolt or something, because you see that little circular image coming out of the gun there. I mean, maybe I'm just looking into it too much, but she's up to no good. She's in the cover of darkness. Can she be infiltrating Colossus? What do you have to say about this, Mike?
Yeah, I think that's really cool. It could be Phasma. It's hard to tell exactly. Is she in really like gold lit light? But if you look, I think it might be somebody else. The gold, like if you look at, for example, the between her armor there,
Mm-hmm.
the black and the gray. I guess that wouldn't be for reflective. It's just really hard to figure out exactly what this is. But yeah, it definitely looks like they're trying to stun. Maybe they stun Kazuda or somebody in his crew and haul them away. Who knows?
Yeah, so much. Because, like, with Captain Phasma during this time, she's in full command of the First Order. So for her to actually come down to investigate, something big has to be happening to get her attention. Why can't she just send some of her squads out to go get them themselves? So if it is her, there's something big going down.
Exactly.
Okay, moving up to the last image. I just had to put this in there because it looks so cool. We have Kazuda just pulling out at the last second before his demise into the water, and I just like the image of those awesome engines just pivoting away with the wave just kind of going meandering as he pulls up.
Yeah, again, those engines really remind me of I want to say Star Fox, but I'm not sure if that is. But they look very anime, that's for sure. Yeah, I think at the very beginning of the trailer, doesn't it? doesn't it look like the engines are in the back of the ship? So it's just kind of interesting to maybe it's got several different speeds or something like that. But yeah, it looks cool. Obviously, the engines in an X-wing and even a Z-95 are in the central, right behind the cockpit sort of thing. So to have them on the wings is interesting. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but it looks cool.
Oh yeah, so that is gonna do it for all the images. I did want to make a quick note because, as we mentioned, I think a couple of times, StarWars.com, they put out their own article with the trailer with a little bit of a blurb about the first episode, which actually premieres on Sunday, October 7th at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you check that out. But they did have some press announcements that were sent out to other channels out there, and they did actually confirm that none other than Leia Organa, General Organa, is actually going to be featured in this show. So that's just, I feel like it had to happen because if you have a show called Resistance, you're going to have to talk to the leader of the Resistance at some point, especially when you have Poe Dameron in there. So that to me is awesome. I cannot wait to actually hear what she sounds like. I can't wait to see Leia's legacy live on through all these different mediums that we have. It's just a great time to be putting out a series like this and featuring her heavily going into episode 9, where we know she's going to have a part to play even though she's passed away. So yeah, lots of great things on the horizon for Leia Organa.
Yeah, I really enjoy. I love the fact that we've been told that she's going to be in the series. That's very cool, and I'm looking forward to. I don't think she'll have a big role, but Poe's going to be off doing a lot of cool things during the Poe Dameron comics. So I'm sure that she's going to be maybe talking to Kazuda at some point and letting him know that Poe's busy. Maybe something to that effect. Because if you look if you look at the evidence, the other books, it really does look like this happens just a few months before The Force Awakens, maybe like a year to 6 months. And even though it was somebody was looking at code on the trailer or the page that was released on, I forget the exact details. And somewhere in the code, it mentioned that it was like 6 months prior to The Force Awakens. So, yeah, it's definitely we could do a whole nother video on that.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, so that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Let me know in the comment section below, was there anything we missed, any bit of insight from you guys that you think is interesting? Please share it with us down there in that comment section below. Mike, I want to thank you so much for joining me, man. You brought so much insight. You are this wealth of knowledge when it comes to Star Wars in general, especially with these animated series. So can you tell us a little bit about your channel and how they can find you?
Yeah, so it's Star Wars Speculation. It's at the moment it's Force Within TV, but it's becoming Star Wars Speculation, and it's where we love the anticipation and speculation that leads up to Star Wars releases of all kinds. But right now, I'm really concentrating on the animation. Obviously, Star Wars Resistance is one of the big releases. That's one of the only Star Wars releases that's coming up. But yeah, I'll cover games as well as live action in the movies as well. It's just sort of whatever's trending, and that's what I love to do is speculate, and I love to get my community involved as well. So you can check me out at very soon. It will be Star Wars Speculation on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at SW Speculations with an S on the end.
Yeah, so guys, please make sure you go over there to his channel, subscribe. He is really fun because he does these community videos where he gets you guys involved to participate, and it just makes the discussion that much better. So guys, make sure you also subscribe to my channel if you like this video. I have plenty of other videos like this. I put up my Resistance reaction when I first started watching it, and when I thought about it, initial reactions. I also have lots of unboxings. I do game coverage. I try to cover a little bit of everything, so make sure you do that. My name is Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.